carry anywhere. We are your hosts and hopefully your new bookish pals. I'm Hannah MacDonald.
And I'm Lydia Clare. In this month's episode of our Top of Your TBR series, we have a very special guest. Hannah, would you like to introduce?
I would love to. Claire Fuller is an English novelist and short story author. Claire gained a degree in sculpture from Winchester School of Art and went on to have a long career in marketing and didn't actually start writing until she was 40. She's the author of 5 novels, Bitter Orange, Swimming Lessons, Our Endless Numbered Days, Unsettled Ground, and in April 2023, her new novel, The Memory of Animals, will be published. Her novel Unsettled Ground won the Costa Novel Award in 2021 and was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. We are so excited to be able to feature Claire as part of our Top of Your TBR series, and we hope you love her recommendations as much as we did. But before we get started, Lydia, it's been a hot minute.
It's been a hot minute.
And this is really strange bookends because we are recording over Zoom with each other and normally we're in the same rooms. This is very strange.
Yeah, very strange. And let me tell you, I mean, I think our bookends know I'm not technically minded. I thought I'd lost Hannah. I was talking to myself for about 5 minutes. It turns out I'd just minimised her. Just minimised
me. I was still here.
I had a panic attack.
Stop. So really what we want to ask, because we've had listeners say that they love our interviews, they love meeting all our new authors and stuff, but they miss us chatting. So, you know, we thought we'd slip in a little currently reading segment.
Oh, yes.
So, Lydia, what are you currently reading?
I am currently reading a fantastic novel, let me tell you. Already, I'm only like 3 chapters in. I've got good vibes from it. And it is New Animal by Ella Baxter.
Shut up. Have you started that?
I have.
Unbelievable. We've had that a while though, haven't we?
I know.
And are you enjoying it?
I'm loving it.
Oh, I'm so excited to read it.
It's right up my street. It's right up my street. Dead bodies, complicated women, a mortuary.
Winning.
What about you? What are you reading?
I am currently reading Dreamland by Rosa Rankin-Gee.
Oh.
And can we?
I think we could say.
Yeah, we're going to be speaking to Rosa herself in, I don't know how many episodes time it will be, because we've actually got quite a few cheeky lineups and I'm really excited, but I won't reveal all of them now. But I'm really excited that we're going to be speaking to Rosa in a couple of weeks.
Dreamland
in a week.
Yes, in a week. But Dreamland was one of my favourite reads of this year. It's dystopia, it's dark.
Guys, that's big energy for Lydia, because she is a harsh reviewer if I've ever met one.
although bookends, I did just rate a book I've read as 5 stars.
This is a big moment. Go on, what was it?
It's called I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy.
There's a little theme going on with the books that you're talking about.
It's all about death. Love the death. Please, if you have not read I'm Glad My Mom Died, then please do. It's just, it's unbelievably brilliant and
so good
and dark, but hilarious. And like, if you're put off by it being a celebrity memoir, don't be, because you know what? I did not know who she was, and it was just amazing. So I can't bang on about it enough, and I keep thrusting it into people's hands like, you must read this.
So desperate to read it because I've heard so much about it.
It's so good, and it deserves the hype it's getting.
It sounds amazing.
It really does.
So either I'm stealing it from you, or that's going to be my next buy.
As soon as I've took my wrap up picture,
I can have it.
It's coming to your house.
Stunning. I will take that. Should we dive in?
Oh, I'd love to.
Let's dive into the episode. So, Claire Fuller, an icon. Well, you were a fan of Claire Fuller before me, weren't you? And you were the one that was thrusting Unsettled Ground into my face. Like, Hannah, will you bloody read this book? And it took me so long to read it, but I'm really glad that I did, because you weren't wrong, Lyd.
I know. I'm never wrong.
No, I know.
But yes, no, I have to say I read Unsettled Ground when it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize.
Yeah, you were reading all the Women's Prize, weren't you?
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, still am. And that was on the list, and I kind of picked it up a bit like, oh, you know, just like, what's it going to be like? Because the cover was a bit weird. It didn't give anything away.
Up, Lydia. I love this cover.
No. I mean, the cover is great, but it doesn't tell you what it's about, does it? Doesn't give
I don't know why I'm showing it. Only you can see it.
Showing it, but only I can see. But anyway, it didn't give me much to go off, and you know I'm not one for blurbs, so I just opened it and started reading it, and then consequently didn't get up for about 8 hours because I was glued to it, and it is the most honest and visceral telling of British poverty I think I've read in a long time. It's just outstanding, like in every aspect, and I will fight to the death for its honour.
For its honour. And it rightfully won the Costa Novel Award.
Yeah.
Why did I think it was called the Costa Book Award? Has it changed names?
Well, it's got different categories in it. So there's like the Costa fiction, and then the Costa non-fic, and the Costa poetry, and it's all like a different title. But anyway, yeah, and deservedly so it won it. Deservedly so. It was just unbelievable. Yeah, so when she said that Claire said that she was gonna give us some recommendations, I was like, yes.
We knew they were gonna be good. Yeah. So I'm going to, just for any listeners that haven't read Unsettled Ground, I'm just going to read the blurb so you can get a feel for her work. So twins Jeannie and Julius have always been different from other people. At 51 years old, they still live with their mother, Dot, in rural isolation and poverty. Inside the walls of their old cottage, they make music, and in the garden they grow and sometimes kill everything they need for sustenance. But when Dot dies suddenly, threats to their livelihood start raining down. Jeannie and Julius would do anything to preserve their small sanctuary against the perils of the outside world, even as their mother's secrets begin to unravel, putting everything they thought they knew about their lives at stake. Now, that's just a cheeky insight, but like Lydia was saying, you know, it is a really insightful novel on British poverty, on what it's like living on the fringes of society. And it's just these characters that just kind of want for nothing. Like, you know, they don't want very much. They want very little, actually. And they are just quite content in their home with their family. You know, they do their gardening and have their own produce, and they just kind of have everything they need. It's so kind of interesting to read that, especially in, you know, the world that we're living in now, where we're kind of attached to technology. And these are people that are not. I don't even recall them talking about technology. I think they spoke about having to go to their neighbour to use their phone. Yeah. But there was no like talk of, you know, using their mobile phone, or no, they did. They spoke about it, didn't they? But
yeah, they do have a mobile, but it's very much like a luxury. The technology is a luxury, and a luxury that they're really not completely interested in. But it really gives you a perspective on people that are living below the breadline, and how it's kind of like, I take for granted that the lamp that's on behind my head is on, you know? Yeah. And with the current like cost of living crisis and stuff, I couldn't think of a more pertinent novel to go to. Absolutely. To read about it, and to also maybe even put things in perspective for you a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, and Jeannie and Julius's relationship was just amazing, and just so complex, and yet they never question it themselves. You know, it's all very much kind of like, it is what it is, but there's so much underneath both of the characters, and so many layers to them. About it for days, because it was just so good.
It is so good. And you know, grief is already a really complex emotion, but it's made even more complex in their circumstances by their living situation, and by these lies and betrayals that are kind of uncovered throughout the novel. So an already complex situation is made even more complex by all these things that, you know, come out the woodwork. It is a really brilliant book. And Bookends, if you're not picking it up, if you're not getting on your phones right now and ordering it, or sprinting to your nearest bookshop, then what are you doing, you know? Unless you've already read it, in which case ignore me. Lyd, I know that as well as being a fan of Claire's work, you also really love following her on Instagram.
I do. She make my mornings just like so happy because she has this hashtag going, which is hashtag I think it's Claire's Books at Breakfast, and it's where she will highlight a novel that she's been reading. It's like book clubbish, and like so many people join in on like chats and recommendations about the book she's talking about. And I mean, it's dangerous for your TBR, I'll say
Just a
that,
bit.
because literally every time she's like, this book, I'm like, oh, okay, there goes another 10 around my back pocket. But yeah, so
she makes your mornings, but she doesn't make your bank balance.
She doesn't make my bank balance happy, no, but she makes me happy, and that's all that matters. But yeah, so if you're not following her already on Instagram, please head over to her and follow the hashtag Claire's Books at Breakfast, because it's great. It's so much fun.
So shall we dive into the books?
Oh, yes, please.
Let's listen to what Claire has to say.
Hello, I'm Claire Fuller, the author of Unsettled Ground, and I've got 4 books to recommend to you. First of all, Snegurochka by Judith Heneghan, which is appropriate right now because we're all thinking about Ukraine and what's happening over there. This book is set in Kyiv in 1992, and it's full of the sights and sounds of the city and what it might be like to be an Englishwoman navigating new motherhood in a new city. It's published by Salt and it's available from their website.
Okay, Lyd. So the first book, Snegurochka by Judith Heneghan.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I judged it by its cover.
What? I liked this cover.
Oh no, guys.
Lydia.
Bookends. If you're gonna click on your phones now, Google it. Google this cover, because it's just a load of like touristy photos.
No, I loved this. Forget what Lydia's saying. Ignore her. She's talking shit.
It looks like a travel book, and I don't like it.
I loved it. Oh my gosh. No. Okay, so when we do these top of your TBR, I'm very passionate about this. when we do these top of your TBR episodes, we each agree to buy a couple of books each. And Lydia was the one that ordered Snegurochka. And then I saw the cover, got jealous, and ordered it because of the cover. So don't give me that, because it's an excellent cover. Thank you.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree. But but yeah, so I did judge it by its cover, and I was like, oh no, is this going to be like travel journalism wrapped up in a facade of a novel? And it really is not.
No.
It's absolutely incredible.
So good.
I loved it. I loved, like Claire was saying, about navigating new motherhood.
Yeah.
And about her fear, Rachel's fear of something going wrong was so visceral.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That it makes you on edge the entire time, because you know something bad will happen. Because she's telling you constantly that something bad will happen.
Yeah.
And you know, I've suffered with postnatal depression myself, and my gosh, are some of those things true? And they hit home. They really hit home. And I just thought, you know what? It's such a clever way, having her go to a place she's never been to before, people she's never met before, a language she doesn't speak, because that is what it feels like when you're struggling with a baby, because you feel at sea, you feel like you have nothing to hold on to. And what Judith did was actually physically put her somewhere where she's got nothing to hold on to. And I just, it was incredible. But you tell me you liked it too, please.
I loved it. And I think, you know, what you're saying is so right. Rachel is this woman that's moved to Kyiv in Ukraine because her husband is a journalist for BBC World News. And, you know, that's her only reasoning for moving out there. And she's this new mother. And that's already a dramatic change, and it would be a culture shock, because it's a very different lifestyle in Ukraine than it is here. And, you know, to have that on top of, you know, this whole new world of being a new mother. And on top of that, she has she's clearly struggling with her mental health.
Yeah.
I was unsure in terms of her mental health what specific things she was struggling with, because you would know better than I do, Lyd, the postnatal depression, whether it was that or whether I was unsure if it was OCD, if it was anxiety, if it was kind of a myriad of all of those things. I wasn't sure. I mean, for me, I can only speak on anxiety because, I've struggled with that for years. And, I've had some of these thoughts that she was having throughout the book where she assumes that worst case scenario is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's constantly playing on her mind, and she feels like she needs to do X, Y, and Z to prevent these things from happening, which indicated OCD to me, but then I wasn't sure. So yeah, I'm not sure what you thought in terms of that.
Well, I think that she had natural tendencies towards things like OCD, and her anxiety manifesting itself in certain ways like that. However, I do think that the postnatal depression, which I'm certain she had, sort of triggered everything. So yes, she's got a myriad of mental health problems. I think everybody in the world's got a myriad of mental health issues, and most of the time we keep them at bay by small things, by managing things like in a day-to-day life, very simply. However, when something dramatic in your life changes, so you lose somebody, or you have a big change like start a new job or lose a job or have a baby, everything then can manifest because of this big change that's happened in your life. And I think that's what happened. So her usual strategies, which are I'll count that because it makes me feel better. It's not the end of the world if she does that when she's not got the stresses of moving, of having a baby, because it takes 2 seconds. But when it becomes something that she has to do, compelled to do, otherwise the baby dies, that is a huge manifestation of the issues that she's having in her life. And I think that she does have natural tendencies towards OCD or obsessive things, and that the things that happen in her life push her towards that. So I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist should I say, and I couldn't diagnose her, but for me and my postnatal depression journey, as they call it, there were a lot of similarities there. About catastrophizing, the baby, if I do this, if I don't look at him every 30 seconds, something bad will happen, he'll stop breathing or something. And you get these fears, and I just thought that this book encapsulated those fears in such a truthful way, and in a way that I've not really read before. I look back and I try and think of like novels where that's resonated, and I just can't think of it. I
don't really know how to describe it, but there's like this underlying thing throughout the whole novel that's like kind of intensity that's like growing and growing and growing, like this tension, like a building tension. And I think she writes that really well. There is this tension that's building throughout the novel, but it's like you're not sure where this tension's coming from, you're not sure. And she's got the writing style perfect for this particular story, because you feel like how it must feel to be inside Rachel's head, where she constantly feels on edge and constantly feels like something's going wrong, but she's not sure what is going to go wrong and what's going to happen. And you definitely get a sense of that when you're reading it.
Absolutely. And I think that she writes, there's a character called Rob who is despicable as a human being.
I hate him. The announcement in the restaurant.
Well, I've got a quote.
Go on, give it to us.
From Rob, just because I think that he's written brilliant characterization. Like, it's just, I just know men like him. And I think every woman knows a man
Don't
like
we
him.
all?
Rachel takes the baby from him, hoping someone has asked for the bill. But Rob, it seems, still has things he wants to say. My wife, he says, raising his glass, she has everything. She likes to look good. But do you know the best thing about her? No? Well, I'll tell you. It's that gap between her thighs. That what? V narrows her eyes. That gap, between a woman's legs. Her triangle of light. I couldn't be with a woman who doesn't have one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was enough to solidify my hatred of that character for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that got me.
I know men like that, and
Yeah.
she writes them so well.
Yeah. I think all the characters are written really well.
Yeah.
But the visceral kind of fury I felt reading that particular quote.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm ready to fight this guy. Oh gosh. I think as well, as Claire has said, it was quite poignant reading about the people living in Ukraine.
I think it's difficult because I can't speak with particular knowledge on the subject of Ukraine. I think I'm completely out my depth. However, with the current circumstances in Ukraine, I think that there is no better time to go out and search these kind of novels and to start getting yourself educated a little bit. And it's a novel, it's not fact, but there's so much we can learn from stories that are created by Ukrainian authors or by people that have lived in Ukraine, worked in Ukraine. And it's enlightening to see how, even in 1992, how Ukrainians were living and how much of the dispute with Russia was still such a huge part of their day-to-day lives. And, it's a fascinating subject. But that's just another reason why I loved the novel, really, as a whole, was that it's multifaceted, because it is about Ukraine and it is about the people of Ukraine, and it's also about someone being somewhere completely alien, which I found fascinating. However, I do believe that we've got some more recommendations that I feel like I'm desperate to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Can we hear a little bit more from Claire, Hannah?
Yeah, let's do it.
The second one is The Weekend by Charlotte Wood. A group of older women meet at the house of one of their friends who has recently died. Old rivalries and irritations are dredged up as they try to clear the house. It's a brilliant description of older women, and they are written with all their personal histories and foibles so that they are completely real.
So, thank you very much, Claire. I feel like she's handing over to me, like I'm a news reporter.
Get out.
So let's talk about The Weekend by Charlotte Wood. I have so much to say about how much I love this book too, particularly the character of Wendy, who I just think is the best character. She's just amazing. And about female friendship and about, mature women being able to just be women and it not matter. Yeah. They're written so well, and I adored it. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I really loved this book, and I was pleasantly surprised by it, actually. I spoke about this on Instagram when I reviewed the book, but I naturally gravitate towards books that have a 20-something female protagonist at the centre. And that's what I tend to gravitate towards because, relatable.
Yeah.
Complex, chaotic women in their 20s. I'm in. I have no idea why. But I think it was so great to read from these women's perspectives because it's rare that we get to read from this perspective. It's rare that we have these fleshed out, complex women that are at a later stage in life. It's rare that we get to see things from their perspective, and the only thing that makes them different is age.
Yes.
Like
it's literally age, like the number, and people are like, age is just a number. I hate people when they say that, but I get it, right? Because these women, yes, they have the package that comes along with being a bit older, which is maybe got a bit of a dodgy knee or a bit forgetful or whatever, like things that just happen naturally with older age. But particularly the character of Adele, she's got to be 16 in her mind. Like there is no way she's older than that. And I feel 16 and I'm not.
Yeah.
I do not feel like an adult, and I don't think you ever do. I mean, I do think some people are born at the age of 40.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe people can be old souls. But the women in this are people. They're not ages. They're not old women. they're just people.
They are.
And it's so refreshing to see that take on it, you know? And yeah, and I will always love Wendy and her dog Finn for the rest of my life.
No.
Finn is just gorgeous. In my mind, he's gorgeous. I mean, yeah, he's old and he like pisses and shits everywhere, but
we love him.
We love him.
I think as well, like, it explores, these three friends are gathering at their friend's house and she's just died. So there is that element of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And this is clearly a friendship that has, you know, it's been a really long friendship.
Like 30 years, didn't they?
Yeah, they've been friends for a long time. They know, they'll know everything there is to know about each other. And they know each other's lives inside out, and there's kind of no question in the fact that of course they'll come together, and of course they'll this woman that's died has children who are not willing to come out and do all this work, but as her friends they've gone, well, that's and every female friend, every close female friend I have, I know if anything happened to me, it would be like, you know, the saying, it takes a village, that they would be like, there would be no question about the fact that of course they would all be around here, they'd be sorting everything out, they'd be organizing everything, they'd be working as a team. It's that whole, like, you know, Sex and the City, the film when Carrie says to them, Carrie's been jilted at the altar and they go on her honeymoon and everything needs to be sorted, and she says to them, you girls could run the world, because they just arrange her life for her on her return. And I feel like it's that same sort of energy. It's like they've gone, right, she's gone, we need to go and sort all this. And it's all a very kind of nice idea that they've all come together to sort this out. But then all these really like bitter parts of them kind of flicker at different moments, and all these betrayals come out, and there's so much drama.
There's so much drama. And what I love as well is that their relationship was defined by there being four of them.
Yes.
And the fact that one of them has gone, it's literally like the other three are like, well, what do we do? Because I don't know what I am to you anymore without Sylvie. Yeah. You know, and
there was nuances to each individual connection. You know, like Adele to Wendy and Wendy to Jude, and, you know, each relationship, each had an individual connection. You know, as these different things come out, I don't want to give any spoilers, but as these different things come out, you know that there's certain people that are closer than others, certain people that are keeping certain things from other friends, and it's a lot connecting them, but also a lot that's dividing them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting.
Yeah, it is so compelling that you can't stop reading it. And like, there is a reveal towards the end of a secret that actually left me gobsmacked. I was like, are you joking that happened? And it was just so well timed.
It was
well kind of crafted, the moment of the reveal and then the aftermath.
Yeah, the pace was perfect.
I was just like, what? And I was as shocked as I think the character was.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. And, you know, because there's no hint of that beforehand of what happens. And it's, let me tell you, it's worth reading the book for that moment alone.
100%, definitely.
It really is.
And I also loved, you know, it's, while it has quite dark elements to it, whilst it does explore themes of grief and there is kind of betrayals, it is also really funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's hysterical.
I feel like it does. It's a novel that's able to do a lot, you know, and it was really funny, you know, you're reading from these women's minds and they're talking about like the trivialities of being an older woman and, you know, bodily functions that and some of them are like really repulsed by bodily functions, and some of them are like, oh, you know, I've just pissed myself laughing. And
that's just... why I love the fact that, and this doesn't spoil anything, but Wendy turns up to the house covered in dog piss.
Yeah.
And like, it's just a bit of dog piss. And Jude's like heaving in the corner, like, whoa.
So one thing I did want to say, and I have no idea because Lydia just went quiet on my end for about 30 seconds. So no idea if she's just said the exact same thing.
You know what I said was very profound. And if it's not been recorded, we've lost a piece of history.
So one thing that I really loved, and I briefly mentioned it earlier, is these women being fleshed out people and fleshed out characters. And I think the important thing about that is that they weren't being written as stereotypes. I think before this novel, I've only kind of read older women or older men written as stereotypes, you know, these like frail old people that are incapable of looking after themselves, or, you know, somebody feeling sorry for them, or I don't know. It's like you get to a particular age and people think that you're just suddenly incapable. And I liked that these women did not fit those molds, you know, they broke them, and they were, you know, they were these women that have had like a long life where, you know, many things have existed in their lives. You know, they've had marriages, they've had careers that have either been successful or gone completely wrong. Which I have to mention, it's Adele, isn't it, the actor?
Adele, yeah.
An icon, an absolute icon. Her being an actor that's just not had anything decent for the longest time. I'm like, that is, if that's me, I'll be fuming.
I'll be Wendy. I'll turn up covered in the dog piss, and you can be Adele.
You can be what's the glamorous woman that's had a really successful career? What's her name?
Oh my gosh, I've forgotten her name. How annoying is that?
I need to find her.
Hang on.
Sonia.
Hey, Ty.
So Sonia and her fancy man Gillespie.
Yeah, fancy man / director / producer / everything.
Everything.
She's iconic for any actress. That's your future, unfortunately.
Don't make me sad. However, we have another 2 to get through. So let's have Claire introduce our third book.
Thirdly, How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. Lala lives off Baxter's beach on Barbados. And it might be beautiful, but just behind the tourist traps, life is not so pretty. This is a difficult read with lots of male violence against women, but it's brilliantly written.
Okay, so Lydia, How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. You, again, read that first because it was on the same Women's Prize for Fiction list as Claire was, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
It was. Now, give us your thoughts, Lydia. What did you love about the novel?
Well, let me tell you, it's been a year and a half almost since I read it for the first time. And it has stayed with me, well and truly stayed with me, because of how brilliantly written it is. It's gorgeous and it's so dark. And like Claire said, there's a lot of male violence in it. It's not an easy read.
No.
But it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Just the way she forms words and sentences and creates these tableaus of scenes. Like, they're just gorgeous. And I don't remember every single detail of the book, but I know the feeling of the book. I know the feeling of the story, of the characters, of what happened, because it was an emotional read for me.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away. But you've read it more recently.
I have, yeah.
How did you find it?
I really enjoyed it. Again, don't think Claire would recommend a bad book after what we've read so far. I thought it was an incredible book, and like Lydia and Claire have mentioned, you know, there is a lot of male violence against women. There is, you know, there are themes of sexual trauma, childhood trauma. You know, these are not light topics that are explored in the book, but they are explored so beautifully, and it is a really moving read and a really powerful one. And I was completely blown away by the fact that this is a debut novel.
I know.
I don't. It's just ridiculous.
Literally, no lies. It can't be. It's can't be. Good.
It's incredible. It really is incredible. The thing at the center of the novel, it's kind of built around this folk tale that was her grandma. So there's 3 perspectives in this book. There's Wilma, Lala and Mira. So Wilma's a woman and her daughter is Lala and her grandchild is Mira. And it was really interesting to kind of track back and forth between these women and see their lives and how much their lives have been touched by this like cycle. They just seem to be unable to escape this cycle of trauma and abuse and violence. and it is graphic in parts.
Very
but what I
graphic.
was going to say is that there's kind of at the center, and the really clever thing about the title is it's based around this kind of cautionary folk tale that Wilma tells her daughter, her grandchild. Is Wilma told it? Someone's told this cautionary folk tale. I'm really not doing well there. But this cautionary folk tale is told, and it's kind of to warn, it's something that's used to warn girls not to disobey their mothers, basically. And it's, you know, it's told at the start, and it's this whole metaphor for what is explored in the novel. And like I said, it does get really dark. It is a difficult read in parts. And as well as it being visceral in the sense of it being dark, I do think it's done really well. And I do think these topics are handled really well.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, with it being set in Barbados, you know, when we picture somewhere like Barbados, we're picturing white beaches, we're picturing like these luxury scenes that we might see on like Instagram or like on social media somewhere. This is not that. This is, you know, a darker kind of reality in Barbados. You know, this is the side of, you know, a much poorer area, that there are drugs, there are violence, there is poverty.
Yeah.
And all of these things, you know, affect everyone. And that it then becomes this kind of generation after generation are being impacted by the decisions made by the previous generation and the things that have affected their previous generation. And I think that's done really well. I think sometimes with multi-generational tales, you can sometimes get a bit lost, whereas I didn't get lost in this. I really followed these women and, you know, really felt for each of them. And I loved getting an insight into their individual stories and how their lives have impacted their next generation and kind of so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, and I've noticed a theme in Claire's recommendations of like, it is very much about poverty-stricken characters, mainly women, and about grief and loss. They play a part in all of the recommendations she's given us. And I think that in particular, this one showcases the grief, the poverty, the love, all very strongly, because it is a story of highs and lows, and it is a story of loving deeply and being hurt deeply. And it's just incredible. And I would urge people to read it with the massive caveat of just, you have to be ready emotionally to tackle it, because it is not an easy read. There is infant loss, there is domestic violence, and there's also male on male violence as well. There is a lot in there that could trip you up, but it's beautifully written. It's gorgeous, and it transports you. It does unbelievably good.
And I can't believe that it's a debut.
Again, like what's going on?
Too good.
These talented people make me sick.
Shall we move on to Claire's final choice?
I would love to.
And finally, Jesus' Son by Denis Johnson. This is 11 linked short stories by a master storyteller. And I wouldn't normally be drawn to stories about drug users and crime, but these are all perfect. Crazy and chaotic, but perfect. I hope you get to read one of them or more.
So, Jesus' Son by Denis Johnson, a short story collection, the only short story collection of the recommendations. And when I say short story, I mean tiny. It's like a page per
tiny.
Story. It's so short as well. It's like 120 pages long.
It's the quickest read ever. The whole book is the quickest read ever.
You can literally, if you're a moderate reader, you can read it in about 2 hours. Like it's really not hard to read it all. But the content, it's like he condensed this huge novel full of deep characters and fantastic storylines and brilliant scenes, and like made it as condensed as possible, and then thought, can I fit that on one page? And did it so brilliantly. I was like, how are you doing that? And the stories are all interwoven, and I'm right in saying, aren't I, that they're all based on one protagonist. And at first that is a bit tricky to get your head around, because you're like, what, is this a new story, is this not?
Well, that's what I took from it.
It is and it takes a second to kind of catch up with yourself and be like, oh right, okay, so this is the style. The style of it is a bit off off kilter, doesn't give you much in way of descriptions or adjectives or anything that's going to kind of flesh anything out. He very much gives you the bare bones of people, and it is enough.
Yeah.
It's more than enough, and you feel like you're kind of stepping into the middle of a scene when you start a new story, which I loved, absolutely loved. But yeah, I think it was the hardest one out of the 4 recommendations for me to get my head round and to grasp. It wasn't easy for me to understand it. I did have to concentrate, but I felt like I got loads from it.
I felt the same. I got lost in parts, but I do think it was brilliant, and I think Claire describes it perfectly as being like crazy and chaotic, but also perfect.
Perfect.
Because it is so well written, but it explores drug use and crime like really well, and I think the style that it's written in, you almost feel like you're on drugs reading it. Like it is very chaotic, and I did enjoy that, and I thought that was done really well, but I did get lost in parts. And I do agree, it is one that you've got to kind of concentrate on, but it is a really short read, so it's something that you'll fly through, but you can't be pausing or kind of zoning out partway through. You can't do that.
No.
I also really loved that there was a lot of dialogue in this. I think I'm trying to think if there's many books anymore that are very dialogue heavy. Sally Rooney likes to use quite a bit of dialogue, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. And yeah, there are, but that feels more conversational, relaxed conversations.
What, from this book?
No, from Sally Rooney, I feel like it's a lot of kind of like everyday dialogue. Whereas with this novel, I felt like every word was placed there on purpose.
Yeah,
there was very much kind of deliberateness about the way that the characters talk to one another, that I really enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit that I did find it hard, and I think some of it may have flown over my head, but I loved what they talked about, what the main protagonist kind of demonstrated about alcoholism and the use of like narcotics and how that can alter your brain and alter the way that you think and feel and the way that they interact with the people around them. I thought that was so well done in this case, because it at no point is it, this person is alcoholic, this person is a drug user, this person is, in trouble or anything like that. It's just a part of their life. It's just what they're doing. And yeah, I found that was a really sort of interesting take on a character, and I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Addiction is obviously a really complex thing, and I think that was explored really well, because it was told from the perspective of somebody that was going through addiction, and so they're not necessarily taken into account, like they're not constantly thinking like I am an addict. They're just going about their daily just going about their daily life, and it just so happens that they're gravitating towards alcohol or they're gravitating towards drugs, and they're not really thinking anything of it. It's just something that
at one point the protagonist is like, so I just took a line of coke and I had a vodka and then I went out and then I did, and it's like part of the routine of and I'm like, what, that's like a huge thing that you just did. It's not in this world. And I thought, because that's what addicts think like, that's what substance abuse can do to people. It becomes the norm,
and there's usually like a real seriousness around those types of topics, whereas there didn't feel like there was much of a seriousness in this book.
The seriousness was there for you to discover. It wasn't the protagonist was unaware,
but the tone itself wasn't super serious, which when you're normally reading about these topics, it normally feels very serious. And whereas this didn't, it felt kind of, I don't know, is frivolous the right word, or am I just making a word up?
No, frivolous.
Not frivolous.
Yeah, frivolous.
No. Like frivolous.
Yeah, like throwaway almost, But no, I get what you mean, because it did feel like that. And I think that was so intentional because the character is not looking for recovery, is not looking for a way out, because it's just their life. And I think that was just so well done. And so I enjoyed it, but it wasn't an easy read for me in terms of like, yes, I flew through it because it's tiny, but I think I would love to go back and reread it and be like, okay, I kind of get what's going on now. a bit more
Yeah.
now that I've got the perspective of having read it all, because I think I spent the first maybe like couple of stories a bit lost, like, whoa, what is this style? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And so so it's not the easiest of reads, but it's definitely worth a go, especially when it's that short.
Absolutely. Lydia, I'm holding a knife to your throat.
Oh no.
Which is your favourite?
I knew you'd ask me that. I knew you would. I'm going to have to say Hello Unarmed Sister Sweet to Her House. I have
Knew it
to
was going to
say.
be that.
Did you?
Knew it was going to be that. Knew it.
It ticks all my boxes, doesn't it? It's just, it was just unbelievably beautifully written. It's dark, it's dismal. You know, my favourite things. But I know I loved it. I loved the voice it was written in. I loved the characters, the issues it tackled with skill and deftness. It was just, it stuck with me, and I'm definitely going to be rereading it.
Love that.
How about you, Hannah?
No,
I've took the knife. I've took it. I've disarmed it.
I didn't agree to this.
No, I've disarmed it. I've took it. I've done like one of them ninja moves. Now you've got the knife to your throat.
Oh no, because I'm stuck. I'm stuck because I would say How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House, but I was
you're
really...
not allowed the same one.
Okay, How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House as well.
No, you're not allowed the same one as me.
I'm not allowed the same one?
No, I've just said you're not allowed.
I thought you said...
the game.
Okay, sorry. Okay, then Snegurochka then. If you wouldn't allow me the same one, then Snegurochka.
No.
I loved Snegurochka. I did also love The Weekend as well. Do you know what? There were so many great books.
You know what, Hannah? Does it hurt? You know, that fence post up your ass.
I feel attacked. So that's all we've got time for today. Hannah was meant to be leaving to drive to Newcastle 23 minutes ago and is still recording, still here.
It's a commitment to the pod.
It is, honey, and we love it. Thank you so much to Claire for giving us these incredible book recommendations. She did not disappoint, and we absolutely adored these. Now, if you want to give Claire a follow, which if you don't want to, then don't speak to me, you can find her on Instagram at writer Claire Fuller. Which is WriterClaireFuller. And as Lydia said before, you can find a hashtag Claire's Books at Breakfast. Definitely follow that hashtag because it's brilliant. There are so many good recommendations on there, and your bank balance isn't going to thank you, but your brain will be thanking you. Claire's new book, The Memory of Animals, which has got the most incredible cover, it was revealed today, and that's out on the 20th of April 2023, and you can pre-order now. It's published by Penguin Fig Tree, but you'll be able to pre-order from all good bookshops, and we will most certainly also be getting our hands on this. You can guarantee that, honey. And please do rate, review and subscribe, as it helps to boost us in the charts. We would love to reach more listeners. We've got some amazing guests lined up and we are so excited. But that is all from us for now. Please stay tuned for the next step.
Honestly, some amazing people coming up.
Some corkers. So,
I just want to shout all the names out, but I'm not allowed.
No,
Hannah's told me I'm not allowed.
Absolutely not. You can find us at A Pair of Bookends Pod. We are also on TikTok. Sorry, at Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram. And you can also find us at Pair of Bookends on Twitter. We've recently got Twitter. We don't know what we're doing. You can also find us A Pair of Bookends on TikTok as well. As I said before, please do give us a review. Please do subscribe, as you'll be the first to hear about all these amazing authors we've got coming on. We can't wait, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Top of Your TBR with Claire Fuller. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.